a short talk or demo or workshop or something on plain language.
That's excellent. Yeah, I think that would be helpful because that would give us kind of some tools in the toolbox to kind of start working with it.
Mhm.
Seems good. It's funny because it's like I was joking about it before. It's it's simple, plain language, but it takes some thought to like keep it simple, right? There's an old Mark Twain adage, isn't there? Like I've written you this letter. It would have been shorter had I had more time, or something like that. It's really easy to write overly complex things.
I actually literally had my PhD students do an exercise in class where they have a longer document and they had to take 3 paragraphs and turn it into a paragraph and turn it into a sentence.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yep,
As
that's
a,
awesome.
like clarifying your thinking.
Yep. What are you trying to say?
Yeah.
The Residents for Respectful Research group did that with all the city modules, because we're trying to prepare residents to do research review as a subset of the IRB, but they all have to pass the city modules, and some of those are really dense. And so we took and rewrote all of them. So we're an advisory group, and we each took one and tried to chop it down. It could probably be further chopped down, but we've done it so far with all the, I think, 6 modules that are required. And then, we're going to just keep refining them as we start bringing residents on board and they say, what does this mean?
And it's, they really have to do the whole city training, like the conflicts of interest. And if you own this much stock, honestly, I just take the test till I pass.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. We wrote it and then we were going to give the module to people who'd never seen the actual one and then give them the test. And if you can pass the test with what we wrote, great.
Right.
Yeah. And so, it's going to be a work in progress. We're just going to keep slicing off the not useful knowledge and just get them the concepts. Yeah.
I mean, the real stuff I know deeply and I care deeply about, the ins and outs of how much money is a conflict and all that. I'd look it up if I ever needed it, but I mean, I'll go look it up.
Yeah. I don't think
I need to have that in my head.
No. I don't think the quiz actually asks you that level of detail anyway, but for some reason
it does. No, it definitely does. Definitely does.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see how well we've done.
The questions change, right?
Yeah, that's the hard part, is that we tried to get a copy of all the questions so we could teach to the test and we can do it. We're working on it.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
I had to say, I really loved the document that I had to e-sign for the email. That was the shortest, best assertion I have ever done. I thought that was awesome. I'm like,
a little security document. Yeah.
And that was the best ever, right? I've never seen anything so short.
Yeah. It was way easier than scheduling 15 minutes with everybody too on Zoom. That was hard.
Yeah, it was. I was very impressed. I actually forwarded it to our IT department.
Cool. Thanks.
Did we just do this?
Yeah, Kathy will probably be very proud of that you did that. Everybody's coming all at once.
Good evening.
Hello,
It
everyone.
looks like we're a minute past. Do we have everyone here?
Well, let's see here. Tabia is not here, but we haven't seen Tabia in quite a while. Seems like something to follow up on, and I know
Andy's
that.
missing.
What's that?
Andy's missing.
Andy
Sue said Sue's no longer on the commission, so.
Well, this is supposed to be Sue's last month, and she actually has a conflict.
Correct,
And
but
can't make. She should have been at this meeting, and she may come before it's over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be nice.
I hope that's the case.
And Mary's not joining us tonight.
Mary is not feeling well, and so she just texted.
Oh, she's better.
I'm not sure we have a quorum with 6.
You do not. That's true. You don't have a quorum.
So does that mean we have to not meet tonight?
You can meet, you just can't vote on anything. Yep. I haven't gotten any emails from Andy.
I'm texting him now.
And that is something to keep in mind that soon it will be very tight, right? With Sue's departure, you'll only have a wiggle room of 3 people. And if 3 are gone, then you won't have a quorum.
Right, and I'm wondering if we should even put that on a future agenda to vote on, because it is a little weird that the quorum is a absolute number rather than a, you know, half plus 1 or something, right?
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Make a note of that.
Well, let's see, I've texted Andy. I say we go ahead and get started. And we'll just hold off on anything that needs to be voted on until we see if we get a quorum. Does that seem like a fair process?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So do you want to go ahead and call us to, well, I guess I call us to order. I am hereby calling us to order. Todd, could you take roll?
Yep. All right. Here we go. So Catherine,
Here.
Jeanette,
Here.
Ernest,
Here.
Jessica,
Here.
Wolfgang,
Here.
and this would be Sue's last meeting, but she is not present. Tobia has not arrived, I believe. Andy has not arrived. And Lindell.
Here.
Okay.
Great. Then we will have the fun of reciting our mission statement. To act as a strong
As a strong
advocate,
advocate,
justice and equal opportunity by providing citywide leadership and guidance in the area of
civil rights.
Okay, that always makes me think of Chantel and smile.
It makes me think of
Next, we have matters by the public. So if those of our attendees wish to speak, you may raise your hand or press *9 and Todd will call on you.
Don't see any raised hands at the moment. Oh, we've got one. Janice, I'm going to give you the floor.
Hey, y'all, this is Janice Redinger. Can you hear me? Give me a heads up.
Yes.
So I just have a couple of questions and maybe a couple of things to say. I'll probably stay around and say something later. A few weeks ago, Todd came to the mayor's Imagining a Just Seaville work group, of which I'm a member. He talked about Human Rights Office and the commission a little bit. And I had one question for him, and that was, does the office handle complaints of discrimination from city employees? And what he told us was that no, that those are all referred out to the EEOC or whatever agency, because the city attorney might have a conflict. So I reviewed the ordinance and I didn't see a carve out for city employees. I'd like to know why those complaints are not handled locally. It seems inappropriate that one of the largest employers in the city itself, is not bound by its own ordinance. It seems to me that the city attorneys can recuse herself and you can get other representation, which would be a better way to go from my standpoint. With that said, it also appears from the ordinance in section 2-437B that if there's another agency that has jurisdiction over a complaint, the Office of Human Rights refers the complaint out. If that's the case, then what exactly does the office actually handle and what enforcement efforts is it involved in? And Todd, I've seen your staff report, so I see the numbers, but I'm not sure when the ordinance says you farm it out, what you all are doing. And third question is, there are many references to the director in the ordinance, such as making probable cause determinations and stuff like that. In the absence of an executive director, who's doing that work and under what authority? Those are my three questions. But I wanted to segue into another issue that I'm hoping that you all will take up when you start talking about your big projects that you're supposed to do under your new ordinance. I will tell you that in my practice of law over the last 30 plus years in Charlottesville, I've done a fair amount of employment cases on behalf of employees. I will tell you from my own personal experience that the city has some of the worst employment practices I've encountered. Second, maybe only to UVA, except that UVA has a grievance policy that at least is consistent with the state's grievance policy. So in the city, even if you prevail in a grievance, you get reinstated, you get all your back pay, your status quo is reinstated. There's no provision in the city grievance policy for attorney's fees to be covered or reimbursed. So very few people outside of management and high-paying jobs could ever afford to get a lawyer, and most of them will just give up and not even file a grievance because they're just not going to be able to navigate the system alone. That's not fair. I'd like you all to look into that. This is an equity issue. And a very related matter, or somewhat related matter, I would hope that you all would look at, there's a 2019 report that was generated by the city manager at that time was Mike Murphy, his advisory group on organizational equity. This is a report that's published. It's on the city webpage somewhere, God knows where. I have a copy if you want it. And I'm sure there's one in Todd's office because Charlene served on that advisory group. And so I want to read something from page 9 of that report. And this is what it says. It is this quote, "It is clear that Black employees generally earn less than their white colleagues in most roles and in most pay band categories. City staff as a whole and in general represent the racial demography of the larger Charlottesville population, except for those individuals identified by the broad designation quote unquote Asian. In this case, only 2.8% of city staff are so designated compared to 7.8% of the general population. When the data is divided by the 4 primary pay band designations, that is management, professional, protective, and technical, the distribution of staff by race changes. There are significantly fewer Black employees represented in management and protective pay bands, while Black employees are disproportionately represented in the technical band. The salary data reveal that white and Asian employees earn above average for city employees, and Black employees earn less. Black employees earn significantly less than the average salary in the professional and technical bands. The report, I refer you to the report, hopefully Todd you have it, includes statistics, and some of the disparities are quite significant. After the report was presented to council in August of 2019, the city pretty much dropped the ball. And I'm hoping that maybe the Human Rights Commission can spearhead a study to update that report. And I look forward to listening to your discussion about Black leadership in City Hall later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have any other
We do.
matters by the public?
We have one more, Tanisha Hudson, and I'm gonna give her the floor.
Hello, can you all hear me okay?
We can.
All right, I'm also piggybacking just off what Janice said. First and foremost, I just want to say to everyone that's on this Human Rights Commission, shame on you. Because the way Black leadership has walked out of City Hall, this is a human rights issue. Not sure if you all know or not, the Human Rights Commission was started as the Dialogue on Race. The Dialogue on Race was started so that it could address racial issues within the city of Charlottesville, as well as within the city government. You have failed. You have failed the Black community. You have failed the Black employees. you have failed this organization that was set up by the late Holly Edwards to address these types of issues. Catherine, we went on plenty of trips together. We did the whole pilgrimage together. You of all people, I'm very disappointed in, because you, as well as Mary Bauer, you too challenged the chief of police back in May, both of you. The thing that gets me with you all is that, especially you, Catherine, I'm talking to you right now, is that you went on those trips and you learned a lot about what Black people went through, and you still didn't care. You still didn't care, because as soon as someone looks like you cry for help, you then jump on the other side without even looking at the situation in its entirety. How would you feel if somebody did that to your husband? I don't think you would like it. It's unacceptable that this city that does not allow people of color in leadership positions to do their job. We just publicly saw it. We saw Chip able to do things that Dr. Richardson was never able to do. That's a disparity. That's discrimination. It's been open, it's been blatant, it's been public, and we have, the record can reflect it because it's on the record how Dr. Richardson was treated. It's on the record how Dr. Rochelle Brackney was treated. It's on the record. And I've had my issues with her, and that still has nothing to do with the fact that she was wrongfully terminated because a bunch of white men didn't get their way. It's unacceptable. What's also unacceptable is that the interim chief, Tito Durrett, was responsible for the SWAT that got punished, and now he's our acting chief. And everybody in this city is absolutely okay with the mayhem that has went on in this city. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And now we've showed the world that we just hire Black people to be puppets. And when they're not the puppets that we want them to be, we click up, we gang up, and we get rid of them. That's not acceptable. And I don't know what each of you goals are for being on this commission, but if your goal is not to tackle the image that this city is displaying to the world and how it feels about Black leadership, the Black citizens, and the Black employees of the city of Charlottesville, then I don't know why you're on this commission, because this is your job. It's not my job. I shouldn't be doing a million Facebook Lives getting people in the know. You should. I shouldn't be bringing people the information of what's happening in City Hall, because you all have more access to it than I do. You're part of it. You're on their commission. You're on their board. You ask and you shall receive. I have to pay and then I receive. I spent almost $2,000 uncovering just how racist this city is. And that's your job. You all should have did it. But instead of you helping the people who are targeted, you actually side with the people targeting them. It's not okay. And I hope that in your discussion later tonight, that you all have some type of plan to address this, and that you have some type of solution to take to council and the people who are acting in the positions of power now, that they need to right their wrongs. And righting their wrongs is not signing off a severance and a non-disclosure agreement. Righting their wrongs would be saying, we're not going to get anybody else to come to this city. So let's give the people a chance who wanted to do their job. Let's give them a chance to do their job. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from the public?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ms.
Yes.
Martin.
Okay, all right, thank you. Human Rights Commission, something is wrong. Something is quite dysfunctional. And just like Ms. Hudson said, you attract Black people, supposedly Black people that are highly qualified. But for some reason or another, they don't last. They are hired and they're not supported. This does not speak well of the city of Charlottesville. It's not the people that you're hiring, because these folk are highly qualified. And by now, I would think somebody would notice that this seems to be a habit. And I don't know why that nobody seems to be questioning the fact that African Americans just seem not to really thrive in city government. What is it? You got to start asking these questions. Now you're getting ready to hire again. Dr. Richardson should have been here. He was highly qualified for the job, but you started attacking his character instead of his job ability. So something has to change, and I beg of you as human rights commissioners that you start looking into this, because this can't keep up. People are noticing this out of town. I was out of town in North Carolina a couple of weeks ago, and somebody brought it to my attention. What is going on in Charlottesville with African Americans? School systems are trying to get African American teachers. This something has to be done. Now, before the next hires come in, I sincerely hope that somebody's giving this some thought, because this cannot keep up. And for those persons that have whatever problems they have to learn how to handle it without attacking. And all of a sudden, these African Americans that were so highly qualified, they come here and get destroyed in their careers. And we are piling up a list of African Americans. We're beginning to take notice of this, and something has just got to change. So Human Rights Commission, I'm calling upon you to do what you are challenged to do. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. Todd, are there any other hands raised?
I don't see any other hands raised at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to close matters by the public, and we'll have another opportunity for the public to speak at the end of the meeting. So it's now time for commissioners' response to matters by the public. I think we have largely two sets of issues that were raised. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes from Janice Redinger's comments. And I think as the vice chair sitting here in running the meeting for Mary Bauer tonight, I think looking at the employment policies of the city is something that we can discuss in a future meeting. That certainly falls within our purview, and seems like something that we could take on, but I think we'll need to have some time to think about that and discuss it and vote. And then the wage issues, which were substantial from the 2019 report, I think also are something that we may want to talk about in a future meeting. Since that report was issued, the city did hire a deputy city manager for equity who is listening to this meeting, and I would assume that wage equity is something that falls within her purview and is being looked at. So I would like to follow up to find out if there has been any action on that since that 2019 report before we take that up as a commission. And then there were some other more specific matters. I don't know, Todd, if you're able to address any of those now, or if we want to talk about that later.
Sure, I'll do my best to respond. So I wrote down three, and hopefully I answer them as completely as I can. So with regard to the offices and the commission's jurisdiction over city employees who file complaints of employment discrimination, I think it's a really good question. I think that you make a good point that being able to handle those cases locally would be very beneficial for the complainants. And yes, I think you hit on it. As I understand it, the challenge right now is that, you know, legal counsel for both the commission and the city is the same, right? So the commission is the adjudicating body in the determination of a complaint. So if there is a finding that of probable cause that moves to a public hearing, the commission would be the adjudicating body, and currently Allison Davies is our liaison in the city attorney's office. So that's the conflict. However, likewise, you know, as the investigating office, Allison is also our city attorney liaison. So we would have to rethink how we do that, right? Because that clearly presents a conflict, because the city attorney's office would also be representing the city's interests. So if there were a way to externalize the legal representation for those particular complaints, maybe that's one way to approach it. But you bring a good point up, and I can certainly ask some more questions to figure out how that's possible. And to your point about, and I think I have the specific citation from the ordinance, section 2-437B. And I think maybe, as I read it, we removed a lot of that outsourcing language that was previously in there. It said we would send things to the EEOC or to, it said PHA before for housing complaints. And we removed that because that was outdated language, especially with the passage of the Values Act. So in fact, we do have jurisdiction to look into employment complaints, housing, public accommodations, credit, and private education, not public education, because the public schools are state entities and we have no jurisdiction over state entities. But I'd be happy to talk with you more about the details. I don't want to burn up all the time on the meeting tonight. If you want to give me a call or something like that, I can tell you a little bit more about the specific things that we're investigating right now. If you look in the report, you can see it at least identifies the protected activity in class and sort of the status of the case. Obviously, I can't disclose specifics because those are confidential, but if you have further questions, there's a lot more things that come to our office that don't manifest as complaints of discrimination. And I can talk to you more about that. And the data sort of reflects that as best I can. It's hard to aggregate every different thing that people bring to us, but there's quite a few different things that people bring that we try to provide guidance and referral as best we can. And then lastly, you asked about the director reference in the ordinance. And so it's been variable over the last almost 2 years now, because once Charlene left, the city attorney's office advised that power goes to the next in command, which was at the time the city manager, which then, as you know, changed hands various times. So it was Dr. Richardson for a bit. It then moved to John Blair. Then, and if I forget somebody, please forgive me, but then it was Chip when he came, and now it's sitting with Ashley because she is my direct report. So, so she has the function as administrative judge for the determination on any case that the office investigates at this point. So once there's a director in place, then that would shift, although, you know, we would still need investigatory staff to then take on cases. So you have to have separation between the investigation and the person making the decision about the case. So hope that answers the question. Hope I didn't get too far in the weeds, but feel free to reach out at any point by email or phone if I can answer further questions.
Great, thank you, Todd. As it relates to the other matters brought up by our other speakers, we do have on our agenda an agenda item to talk about a letter to the city about the pattern of losing high-level Black employees of the city and our concerns about that. So I think we will be discussing that later on. Do any other commissioners have any comments they'd like to make? Any responses? Jeanette, did you?
Yeah, thanks. I would be interested in, I think Catherine, you mentioned reaching out to Ashley to find out what happens if any action on the 2019 report had been taken. I would also be interested in seeing a report of that. it's probably available online, but
Actually has a comment that she's put in our chat saying that when we have an HR director, there is money set aside in the CIP for a class and comp study. But there isn't an HR director right now.
so I'd be curious to know if we could have access to that report, if it's open
Yeah.
to the public or to the commission. And then
Oh, the
I just-
2019 report, you mean?
Yeah. Mhm. And then I had some questions about some of the comments, specifically by Ms. Hudson. So is it accurate that we can FOIA and not be charged? I think that's what she was saying, but that a regular citizen who's not on the commission would get charged for FOIAing information. Is that what you all heard?
Yeah,
And is that
I think
accurate?
that's true. We can ask the city for information. We are not charged.
Okay. And then she also mentioned that something about us being opposed to the police chief. And I'm wondering if you all are aware of what that is in reference to. I mean, she came to the, right, you're shaking your head no. So, I mean, she came to the commission and spoke to us, but we at no point were critical of her role or position as a commission, right? We were just asking
We
questions.
took no position.
Yeah,
We asked
okay.
questions, yeah.
Yeah, I would just like to affirm some of the comments from the speakers. It is troubling. I mean, I know we have that later on the agenda, but just to respond to thanking them for coming and sharing. I was resistant to the specific attacks, not sure where they're coming from, but like to referencing Catherine and stuff we might want to think about as a commission. As someone mentioned, putting time limits on it, you know, like we haven't really had people speak before, so having guidance around that would be helpful. I know the Planning Commission has a guide around you can't make personal attacks and they'll kind of shut it down. I know City Council doesn't do that. So we'll probably want to decide how we want to handle that and encourage more folks to come to the commission as today. It's great to hear from the public and to hear what your concerns are. So those would just be my comments.
I agree, and I was going to offer the Planning Commission's new process up as a model for us to perhaps adopt. Any other commissioner responses?
I just want to say that I appreciate all of the feedback. I think it's unacceptable, the attacks, and it's something that I want us to talk about later on, but it is on the agenda tonight. So I appreciate you bringing up that concern. It is something that several of the commissioners mentioned in our last meeting to bring up. And so it is on our agenda tonight. So I hope that you stick around and hear that conversation, but thank you so much for the feedback.
Any other comments?
Just wanted to thank our speakers for coming and sharing their thoughts with us. Again, we're going to be discussing Charlottesville's Black leadership and the lack of respect and lack of support that has been shown to them. I'm looking forward to that discussion later. I think it's an important thing to highlight. So thank you for coming and voicing your opinion. Also, this work is really important. And I really am looking forward to having a director in this position, to having the Office of Human Rights being fully staffed. I was excited to see the Office of Racial Equity, Diversity, Inclusion being established this past year, because this is work that should not be done by volunteers. We are all volunteers in this commission, and this work is more important than the time that each of us have to give to it as much as we would like to. So thank you for raising the importance of this work, and I just wanted to say that we should staff it so it deserves better. Thanks.
Well put. Okay. I just received a message from Andy saying he may try to join us in a few, in which case we will be able to vote, but we cannot do that yet. So I think we can skip voting on the minutes and take that up if Andy does come. Does that make sense? which brings us to the chair update. And I don't have much of an update. There are a few matters I think that Mary was going to handle that we can talk about in the committee meetings, but I don't have any update from Mary about how anything is moved forward with those. I would like to use this opportunity, though. Mary had invited Mr. Aguilar to the meeting just to introduce himself. And so, Todd, how do we make it possible for him just to say hi and for us to meet Mr. Aguilar? Can we promote him to panelist, or is he already a panelist?
See if I can promote to panelist. I can definitely give him permission to talk. Oh, here we go. Promote to panelist.
Be nice just to be able to see.
Yeah, there we go. Should work, unless I don't have permission. Remy might be doing it.
There we go. So, Mr. Aguilar, thank you for coming to the meeting. Welcome to the Human Rights Commission, and you're sideways. Sorry, we surprised you by turning the camera on. I think there's some overlap between the work that the Human Rights Commission is tasked with and the work that you are tasked with. So we will perhaps need to coordinate in the future. So it seemed worthwhile to have you, to welcome you and have you say a few words to us tonight.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm working out of my phone, so that's why I was sideways, but I'm not sideways anymore, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so thank you for inviting me. My name is Hansel Aguilar. I'm recently, it's my 4th week now as the executive director of the Police Civilian Review Board. And it's a relatively new body, or at least this iteration of it. There was a previous body that did the work of researching to establish the best model for the city. So my role is to provide the functional support, administrative support for the board, very similar to what Todd is doing for your commission. So I do agree that there may be some overlap in our work. As we know, there's a lot of discussions and debate in the community right now about policing, but also at the state level and at the national level. And civilian oversight of the police has been used as a mechanism to try to bridge those gaps. I've done this work in Fairfax County. I was one of the inaugural members there in our review panel. And I've also been a police misconduct investigator in Washington, D.C. So I've been in this field for a few years, and I appreciate the promise of it. I think every community is different. Charlottesville has its own unique problems, as any community does. And it's important to work with community members, to work with peer organizations to make sure that we're moving in the right direction with a lot of these issues. And in the prior work in DC, there was certainly some overlap and synergy we had with the Office of Human Rights there. When it was possible, we collaborated. There's a very robust Language Access Act in DC. And oftentimes when our work overlapped in that particular issue, we certainly communicated regularly and found ways that we could improve the policies within the police department. And I believe that may be the case here. I've had the opportunity to meet with Todd and break bread with him a few weeks ago. And I'm excited about this potential relationship. I had the opportunity to meet with Ms. Bauer over Zoom. So I do believe that there's opportunity for joint work together and also for joint lobbying of similar matters. And I do think that in some of the things that I've heard from the commission and in the community and even the police department, that some issues shouldn't be police matters. And we just have to be have a concerted effort into making sure we provide solutions for the city to implement, to try to relieve the police force from those duties and provide other avenues for these issues to be addressed. And again, I appreciate you having me, and inviting me to this meeting.
Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate your time. We welcome you, and we will look forward to working with you in the future. Thanks. All right, OHR staff report.
Yep. So thanks. I, of course, attached the usual report to the agenda packet. So as always, if you have any questions about anything you read there or catch anything that doesn't make sense, please let me know. Let's see. The only things that I was going to mention that aren't on the report, you know, I did send out, I think it says in there that I'm waiting to hear back from Eric Steinecker at HUD regarding the amendments to the ordinance to bring it to substantial equivalence to federal fair housing law. And I'm going to follow up with him again and hopefully have that to you, because what I'd like to do is be able to present that again to you all as a full commission at the November meeting, because I would like to keep moving that forward because it's important and it's a big project. So just keep that on your radar. I'll try to get that as soon as I can to you when I hear back from Eric. And something I mentioned in email, we may need to at some point in this meeting, maybe when we get down to the committee discussion, let's verify who was present for that HR 21-1 vote. As I noted, Jenny, our dear intern who does our minutes lately, she noted that it wasn't clear if there was actually a quorum, because not everybody was visible, I guess, on the rebroadcast. So we want to make sure that that's clear. And what else was I going to let you know? Oh, if you haven't contacted me about your city email address to get the password, give me a call. You can even give me a call after the meeting if you want to, whatever works for you. And if you haven't done the quick little security form, Linda was talking about that at the beginning of the meeting. It's a short read. It's maybe 4 lines and then a signature. So it's really easy to get through, and it substitutes the 15-minute security training that we were going to have to go through with everybody otherwise. So, and other than that, I guess we should probably acknowledge that this would be Sue Lewis's last meeting. And she's not with us tonight because I think she had an overlapping obligation because she's involved in so many different things. So
she told me she was going to try to get here before the end of the meeture. And so I was going to wait till the end of the meeting when she might be here.
Great.
So we will not end the meeting without acknowledging Sue, for sure.
Sounds good. Well, that's all I had to say. Let me know if you have any questions about anything that I can help you with.
No, thank you for your work, Todd. I know you are doing the work of many, and you do it well, and we are very appreciative. Okay, so we are now moving into the work session. I'm going to make a small suggestion that we flip the order a little bit, talk about the city manager memo, do the ad hoc committee updates, and then have the discussion on Black leadership after we do the committee updates. Is that okay with everyone? Any problems? Okay. So in our packet is a memo from Ashley that I will try to navigate to. It is sorry, I always think it's kind of silly to have multiple monitors, and then I'm in something like this and I wish I had multiple monitors. So, how do you know which amendment, attachment it is? The amendment, there we go.
5.
So it's attachment 5. I had it up at some point, but lost it in my tabs. Ashley Marshall, the Deputy City Manager for Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, sent a memo to Mary as the chair over the summer, and asking about two things. One is noting that next year will be the 5th year since the 2017 Summer of Hate events, and asking if the Human Rights Commission would like to work with her office on commemorations, and reminding us that the Equity Days had been run with, I don't know, was it out of the Office of Human Rights or entirely by the Office of Human Rights? But that there's some history there. The other thing that she's asked in the memo is, I guess, our affirmation for the idea of observing commemorative months. February is African American History Month, March is Women's History Month, Gender Equality Month, April is Autism Awareness and Arab American Heritage Month. Those sorts of things, the city is not systematically observing those. I think they tend to do it through proclamations at City Council that are brought forward, but there's nothing like a banner on the city garage or at City Hall, or just some sort of consistent commemoration of those kinds of months. So she's asking our opinion or our support for that office engaging in those kinds of commemorations. So I open it up for your comments, thoughts on either of those issues.
I like the opportunity to commemorate those months. My question would be, to what extent? Meaning beyond a letter, what would it look like for us to do that? Would it be a program that month or a week or what have you? So that would be my concern, would be to what extent and how much we're looking to do that.
So I think we can ask Ashley to respond directly to that, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and please accept my apologies for not being on camera at this moment. My memo that I sent during the summer with regards to the commemoration months was to ask you all's advice and counsel on what you think we need to do as a city to ensure that we are properly recognizing notable months and days that impact members of our community. So, Mr. Chambers, I am open to any suggestion that you have. At the particular time when I wrote that memo, I discovered that there is really no budget line item for something like this. And I wanted you all's thoughts so that I may perhaps be able to prepare an appropriate ask to make sure that we address this issue in the future. And so I'm open to any ideas that you all have, any feedback that maybe you all have been given, being longer tenured here in the community. And I will do my best along with Mr. Niemeyer to see that we can get movement on your suggestions. And this is a great time because we are beginning the budget. It has not been completed. So I have some time to see where perhaps your suggestions could fit in and be properly funded.
Well, I'm just going to say, I'm not speaking on behalf of the entire commission, but I suspect others agree with me that I am somewhat shocked to find out that your office is unfunded in general, that there is not a programming budget for your office to just be able to, I mean, in this case, we're talking about buying some banners, I think, right? Like this. And so that's definitely something we would like to see the city, I think, take up. This office needs I'm glad you're here. I hope you're being paid well, and you need a budget.
I am looking forward to being able to fight for that. But yes, unfortunately, in the fiscal year 22 budget, the Office of Race, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion was not provided an allocation. And again, just generally in the organization's budget, there just has never been really a placeholder for that kind of recognition universally. Not sure why, but
Yeah.
that's where we're at, unfortunately.
Any other comments?
I could say this. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Wolfgang.
I mean, Catherine said that she wasn't speaking for the whole commission. I would say I agree that I'm really surprised to learn that. I'm kind of shocked by it. Kind of resounds from my comments earlier that like this work is valuable. This work needs to be funded. This work needs to be supported by the city if the city wants to see this kind of work be pursued. So yeah, I'm just really disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say, let me put this out here for consideration regarding the second, the issue of commemorative months. I'm generally in favor of the city having some systematic mechanism for recognizing these months. And I think some of them may involve more of a program, but in general, it's really just recognizing them in some systematic way is how I've understood this. What do you all agree that that is a laudable goal that we should encourage the deputy city manager to pursue?
I just want to say yes. Like I don't know when. I mean, I know when it came out in June, but it's my first time seeing it, and I was excited to see this on here. I think it's something that Ashley should pursue, and I think it should be more than just a day of celebration, but also like a day of awareness. And like I've learned a lot being on social media about some of these awesome times to celebrate, and sometimes not so awesome times to celebrate. We need to recognize them, and I appreciate what the state has done, even with Juneteenth, and making that a day that I get to have paid off. I think it's good. So I think it should be a mixture. If I know there is not funding, but I think around some of these, it's not as obvious maybe what they are, what they mean, and how people get supports. And so if there's ways that we can advertise, for example, World Mental Health Day, like providing resources and having more than just, hey, it's this day or this month, but providing further resources for people within our community to access.
Yes, I agree. And I would add too, if we are able to get a social media presence, that could be one way that we could participate by having outreach around that. And I wondered what the rest of you think about the Unity Day idea as well. We discussed this at my work also in terms of, I think I would be in support of that if it seems like something that is important to the community. That some of the feedback that we received is that, you know, folks do want to commemorate August 12th in some way. So I think having the city do something more significant in terms of a Unity Day, or, you know, to host that, I would be in support of that.
I have a slightly different response to that, which is that I feel like the city needs to, I don't know if make amends is the right word, but there were some gaps in the official responses that occurred over that summer. And until those are addressed meaningfully, I think it's an important commemoration. It's not something I'm personally as interested in hearing from the city without it being paired with some more substantive response that I don't think the city is in a position to do right now. I don't know how others feel.
Catherine, I hear you. My concern with that is, you know, who's still around to, you know, to try to make those amends and those things. Because people that do that, you know, it's hard to hear from someone who doesn't have any real connection to it. So, you know, that would be my concern on that. As far as the commemorating the observance of the months, it seems to me it'd be a great opportunity to reach out to other community partnerships around to see how they commemorate the month and how we can join in with them in doing that. You know, like May is Older Americans Month. So, you know, being able to talk to the Senior Center and find out how they would do that and how we can join in on those type of things I think would help us in the beginning stages of this so that we can do something bigger along the way, since there is not money in the budget for it.
Right. All right, mindful of the time, is there anybody else want to make any comments on this?
I was just gonna.
Madam Vice Chair,
Go ahead.
Yes.
I was just going to make a suggestion to see if this would be amenable for you all. Would you all be open to me doing some brainstorming and sort of plot out some ideas that I see? Again, I think community groups are great. Also maybe some things that other cities, so other localities are doing. So that gives me a basis of, you know, kind of the, hey, everybody's doing this, hand me some money moment for the months. And then if you all wouldn't mind just continuing to think about next August, I will be very honest, that is both you, Madam Vice Chair, and Mr. Chambers hit on the exact reason why I'm asking. I recognize that I was not here. And it's important for me to either A, support work that the community would like to see during that time, or B, be the voice in City Hall saying, do nothing, that is what they would like for you to do. So wherever you all land is the proper place and space. I just want to make sure that I'm advocating properly for what the community would like to see and what those who were present on that day and the day the next year would like to see. And I'm happy to reach out to anyone you all suggest, but I wanted to start with you all.
Is that an appropriate, I'm asking the commission, topic for the community engagement subcommittee to take up in your next meeting?
Sure.
Okay,
I
so
saw
why don't you
Nodding.
do that? Huh? Was that a no, Jessica?
No, it was a yes, but I spoke and then I spoke with simultaneously watching Jeanette and no, not.
Okay. So I will put that in that subcommittee then and say on the notion of commemorating months that we support the general idea and support the deputy city manager in moving forward with figuring out how to operationalize that. And think there should be money for that and many other things. Sound good? Okay. So I hope that was helpful. All right, so moving into the committee updates, our accessibility committee. Do we have an update?
Yes, we met 2 weeks ago, myself and Sue Lewis. So now it's just me. Anybody would like to join me on the accessibility committee? We are about to start our next project, which is a series of PSAs highlighting invisible disabilities within the city of Charlottesville. And so if you would like to be part of that project, feel free to reach out to us. We have a group of people who are interested in voicing their stories, and we will be partnering with the city to film and release the PSAs. So that is our next project. We just started it, and I think that's all we have to report. Because again, it's just me and honorary member Lindell, who made an appearance.
Sounds amazing.
Thanks.
All right. And the community engagement committee. Who is?
So that's us. We did meet. I messaged you. Our notes didn't get into the packet.
Yeah, so when I have Jenny do the meetings, the meeting minutes, she's basically doing the meeting minutes. She finished all the ones from September, and now she'll start working on the ones for October, because she just finished on Monday all the ones for this meeting. So yeah, you'll have to wait till next week because she only gets to work 4 hours a week right now.
Yeah, no worries. I just, if you sent that in an email, like I tried to find you saying that and I didn't. So I'll try to go off of memory, and please, Lindell and Jeanette, please speak up. But we spent time, if you guys it did get into the agenda packet, though, what we worked on. So I think that's most important, is that we did work on the A21 resolution about how to be able to proceed forward with action items, like kind of in between our meetings. And so that has been drafted, and we can't vote on it tonight, but I think something we should be able to vote on in the future. And Lindell has done an amazing job. I have to give her a lot of credit for putting together, advocating for a plain language version of our documents. And so this is like, there's a lot of jargonese ways of our ordinance because they have to for legal reasons, but it's a barrier for our community. And so making sure and transforming our documents into plain language. And so there's a proposal there to do that with all of our documents. And Lindell started it with our the resolution that we're putting forth as an example. So there's a flyer there for you guys to review if you haven't already. And then Jeanette took a stab at a proposal template of statements. I know that there hasn't really been formalized, and so we're just formalizing that and putting an example template in place. And the thing that we're wanting to work on next as a group, well, we've tasked something new, but the thing we discussed in our meeting is to work on, I lost my train of thought, to work on the process for when you file a complaint, because it's really complicated in the way that it's described. And so working with Todd to make some nice visualizations and put it into plain language as a first part of our ordinance. I know it's a part of a whole ordinance, but starting with that specific section of the ordinance. Jeanette and Lindell, did I miss anything?
That's great, Jessica. Thank you.
Any questions?
Great work. Thank you. Okay, housing is me, and we talked about a few things. Todd had brought to our attention the issue of Midway Manor. Has that been discussed in the larger committee, Todd? So that Midway Manor, which is low-income housing, I believe, for largely elderly individuals, the owner of that re-upped the contract for 2 years when they could have done it for 30 years. And so that has caused some obvious concern in the community that they may be looking to end the low-income housing contract. Yes, Jeanette, exactly. That is obviously going to be a big problem. And so in our meeting, we sort of discussed the role of the Human Rights Commission. And I think our role is going to be largely to amplify the work that other community organizations are doing. That we're not really in a position to take a lead on that, but that we can amplify our concern. I don't think there's anything at this point that what city council can do, right? There's not a lot of specific targeted action for us, except to stay on top of it, be aware of it, and be ready to support CLIC or LAJC or whatever organizations step into the space to start organizing around that. And I believe the community members are starting to work on some things. Did you want to add something, Todd? You looked.
Well, yeah, we can add a little bit. So I've been in touch as late as this afternoon with residents there, and I'm going to be scheduling a time to go over there. I'm working with one resident to organize a time where I can talk through what protections they have under Virginia Fair Housing Law. And I hope to actually maybe coordinate with someone from LAJC as well to talk about what their rights are under the Landlord and Tenant Act. So just to give them, make it clear that they do have protections on some levels. And this isn't just about the site-based Section 8 renewal, but other concerns that they have as well that they've brought up and brought to my attention. So I'll be probably going over there tomorrow to talk with the resident again and to help coordinate that date coming in the next week or so.
Yeah, I mean, there are some serious ongoing maintenance concerns and other things I think that are sort of generally known in the community. So yeah, great. Thank you, Todd, very much. Let's see, we also discussed the same update you've already given us about the FAP and where the ordinance changes stand, and Mary is going to follow up with City Council about the right to counsel issue, the need for an ordinance and for additional funding. So I think that was the work of the Housing Committee, and then the Legal Representation Committee, which was the same committee, me and Mary. It was all the same work, really. I don't think we added anything. We discussed the issues of legal representation, and Mary's going to send that an email to council on that. Anything I missed, Todd?
I don't think so. I think maybe, just with the legal representation committee, just for the sake of the public to understand that what we're talking about there is legal representation for parties to a complaint that's filed with the Office of Human Rights, as opposed to legal representation in eviction cases, which is the other thing that the commission's been advocating for. So, and we're trying to navigate both of those. I think the housing piece is the primary, the eviction prevention and representation is the primary one folks are thinking about right now, but we're exploring the second as well.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to our final work session item, which is the idea of sending a letter. And I feel like we send a lot of letters, but that's what we do, right? On this issue of the I don't know what to call it, turnover. It's been a variety of things of Black employees of the city in leadership roles. We've seen substantial turnover in ways that from the outside, I mean, I think we have to acknowledge that we do not have access to the confidential personnel matters that are going on, but from the outside is certainly a concerning pattern of targeting Black leadership. And it seems within the commission's purview to express extreme concern over that to City Council. So thoughts?
I agree. Very concerning, and I'm not sure what power we have to fix things, but I think that it's a real missed opportunity to not express our extreme concern about what appears to be a systemic issue with the city, and that it has to be addressed, or we're not going to get any better. This is really concerning.
And your point about a systemic issue, I was unaware of the report that Ms. Redinger pointed us to, and I think we've gotten an email to us. Obviously, we haven't read it yet. But the notion that there is substantial systemic differences in salary, I think, is perhaps part of a pattern, and it's worth saying. There seems to be a systemic problem that needs to be addressed. Yeah. Ernest.
Yeah, I've always had a concern. I know just for me driving around town, and when I see individuals working that are part of public works, usually there are no minorities that are on those sites. It's usually just workers, but no minorities are on the sites when you see people working around town in public works. And that concerns me. It's just recently that I started seeing some guys, some minorities driving the snow plows when they are cleaning things. But other than that, at times, if you look around and you see digging ditches or digging things in the streets and that's everything, I don't see a lot of minorities at all. And that's a nice chunk of change when you're moving dirt, you're moving, excavating things and moving things. That's a nice piece of change that you're making. So again, I am concerned about minorities in positions like that, as well as what's going on with leadership. Just how African American leaders are treated, how you know, how they're fired without, I mean, I can't say without cause because I don't know what is going on, but at least, you know, most people get fired and you know, especially if they're in the public purview, you know, there's something there. And my problem is that when you ask somebody to do something and you celebrate it one week and the next week you got to fire them, that's a problem. Not to mention that is an issue of putting the reason that you are resigning on the mayor in that letter. That right there was a problem for me. Because that's not fair to her. Because that was your job to do. And you did not, and you can't blame someone else for your misconception. But again, I'm not attacking him. But from, you know, so there's a lot going on. And really, I don't know which way to try to make an influence on making change, because there's so much there. There's so much there. So what do we do? Because I mean, the power that we try to have is we write a letter, or, you know, we try to make comment during a city council meeting. And that's another question I would have is, as far as commission, when things like that come up, you know, do we need to make sure that someone on the commission is listening to city council meetings and try to find a way to make sure we get on the public comment side, to make sure if things like that come up that we have a voice and say, hey, this is not right, this needs to change, that's not appropriate, those type of things. Because right now, you know, we had our meeting, our last meeting was about, we talked mostly about housing. And that was mid-September, but all of this started happening early September. And we had already planned on talking about housing. And housing took up the majority of the time that during that meeting. And we only had a few minutes to even talk about that because it was already after 9 o'clock. And then the community is asking, where are we? And we have to wait until middle of October for them to hear from us again. And that is, if the community is waiting to hear from us, as community members stated tonight, we have to do something or put something in place that is not that long of a gap. Either we send in a letter to city council, or we put some people in place during city council meeting to make comment or something. But we have to do something, you know, if we are going to be a placeholder as far as our Human Rights Commission, and let the community know that we hear them. And we hear and see the inequalities and the things that are going on in city government that are not good. And we want to make sure that our voices are heard. I also want to go back to true, we are volunteers, and that is very tough to do because we do have families and jobs and things and commitments that preclude us at times. But we also, if we love this work, then, you know, together, I think we can make some things happen that we can show that we love this work and we want to do this work for the city of Charlottesville.
I appreciate that, Ernest. Can I ask a question, Todd? I see in our packet, we had the attachment about processes for taking action between meetings. Have we voted on that?
No, not yet. So that's.
I don't see it on our agenda, but I saw it in the packet and I didn't think we voted, and it kind of addresses some of Ernest's concerns.
it's part of the community engagement committee. They sort of took that under their wing, but yeah, so they made some amendments to it for you all to
Okay.
review, but obviously without a quorum, you can't take action on it. But,
We can't take action, but we could certainly do that next week. So at the end of our agenda is, or of our packet are the materials that sort of lay out the ways, because I know we had sort of moved quickly to do some things in the past and then felt like that maybe wasn't in keeping with the spirit of the commission, that folks didn't get to give feedback. And so wanted to set some procedures in place to allow the chair and the vice chair to make swift public comment on behalf of the commission when needed between meetings. So I think it would be great if we could get that on our agenda for our next meeting so that we could vote on that. So we can address, I think, some of your concerns there, which are true, valid, obviously. Since Mary isn't here, I'm going to volunteer her to draft this letter. And I believe she may have already at least thought it through, because she was ready to bring this to the commission. We can't vote, but can we sort of generally let me know how you would feel about Mary writing a draft, us working on it as we've done in the past via email, and then getting that out before the next meeting. I mean, she has the authority under the bylaws to speak on behalf of the commission, and we can get the feedback via email. Is that okay? And then I'm saying thumbs up. I guess we don't need a real roll call vote. We're not allowed to do the thumbs up now. And I assume she will actually go to city council and speak, as well as send it via email to city council.
Catherine, I don't know if you see, I see Jessica, Wolfgang, and Jeanette have their hands up. I apologize.
I do
didn't see
not.
what order.
Oh, okay. Jessica. I'm sorry, I
Thank
didn't
you.
see the order, so I'm going from left to right on my screen.
I think I was the first hand raised, but so it's a lot I want to comment about this particular topic. And I hear the frustration of those who spoke up tonight during public comment. And I just wanted to say, like, the fact that we didn't speak up doesn't mean that we don't see it or not committed to this work. Like, I'm doing this because I'm committed to the work and I care about Charlottesville. So I just want to say that very clearly. And there oftentimes our hands are tied. Like, even in this, it's very discouraging what's happening with what's happening with the mayor, what happened with the police chief. When you're seeing it, for me, I'm talking to myself personally, not on behalf of the commission, but because I'm here, I want my voice to be heard. And that it's discouraging when this is happening at this level and feels like there's nothing you can do. Like, one more letter, I feel almost aggravated by, but I think it's important. So I want to bring up a couple of things that I like. It's infuriating. And I think we should have a conversation and suggestion about policies, how we treat each other. Like, I am enraged the way that the mayor is addressed. Like, no one steps in to defend her. No one steps in to cut the conversation off. She gets to be disrespected, and it's not okay. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care what your policies are. I don't care what your political stance is. Like, it's unacceptable. And in workplaces, and I know Lindell knows this, there is something called bystander training. And often people that experience racism, it's called racial trauma. We experience racial trauma because often we experience it for a lot of reasons, but often why it's so devastating is because our white colleagues are not stepping in and saying something. Like, I'm on this commission because I know if something happened to me, each one of you on here would stand up and have my back. And I feel the same way about you. And so to me, that is something that needs to be addressed at the city level. Like, we can only do so much. Like, Ashley, I don't know, like, even throughout this, like, I don't know what you're able to do and things that we're able to suggest, but I would suggest like bystander training for everyone. Like, it's really disheartening to see the way our city, specifically our mayor, is being treated. And though I'm on this commission and I believe in the work that we're doing, I often felt like my hands are tied. And the last thing that I want to say, and I'm very passionate about this, is like, Todd, I don't know if you have the answer. I don't know if something we can take on in the community engagement, but we don't get to hear from the public. Like, I'm not, like, I know Todd, you hear from the public a lot more. Like, I know I'm seeing these things, but there isn't an opportunity. Like, I'm not on the channels of the speakers from tonight. Like Tanisha has said, like, I'm not on her Facebook. Like, no offense, but I'm grateful for the work that she's doing, but I'm not in the city. Like, we don't host meetings where we hear from the public about what to do. So I would also propose that to us as commission can, like, again, Todd, it's like back to the, what can we do? Can we host Facebook Lives? Can we host Instagrams? Like, I can do that. I can commit to that, where I can actually hear from the public and what they're doing. But I just want to say, like, I am disheartened by what's happening. And I want to also just express, like, the frustration of not, like, I know what our ordinance says, but I also see what can be done. And it seems like what can be done is sending a letter, which is important. And I'm grateful for Mary to go and to speak. And I love what Ernest said about, like, continuing to put pressure, continuing to be at city council meetings that go to 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, they're really long. I think all those things are important, but I just want to suggest, like, are there ways, it's more of a question, like, are there ways that we can hear from the public their concerns and the ways that we can document it? And then lastly, can we propose, like, it's this bystander training? There are people who do it for free. There's companies that come in and do this training, but I think that needs to be addressed. And back to our earlier discussion about, like, how we even host our public comment, like, what are the rules, what are the guidelines? I think it's fundamental in any organization that I've been a part of. That is the first thing that I invoke and want to do, is like, what is our code of conduct? How are we going to treat each other? So I think those things need to be talked about.
Thank you. Jessica, can I just ask a clarification before I move on? When you say we treat each other, are you speaking specifically about the commission? Or are you speaking generally about the city and city council and public meetings?
All of the above. Yeah, I'm saying how we treat each other here in this. It hasn't been a conflict, but I think it applies here. But also broadly, I think more specifically what I was saying is proposing to the city government, like, how are they treating each other? Do they have a code of conduct? Have they participated in bystander training? To me, I'm not an expert, but I can tell it's not happening, because there's a lot of disrespect and it's unacceptable. And so I don't know, again, I'm asking the question of, where do our powers lies, that we can say it in a letter, but how many letters do we have to send before someone comes in and says, like, you need to do a mandatory bystander training and you need to address racial discrimination or racial issues.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. So Wolfgang, I think you were next.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Jessica. I resonate with a lot of what you said. It's really disheartening to see so many, like, high-level leaders within our city, high-level Black leaders within our city just leave, get taken down. It's just, it shows a lot of disrespect, a lack of support for Black leadership in our city. And I don't know what to do to be able to chip away at that. I love your idea of bystander training. My thought is that, you know, this is what we're seeing, right? We're seeing high-level leadership. We're not seeing what happens to everybody else. And the report that our speaker shared with us this evening, we talked about this, a lack of pay equity across all pay bands and across all departments, across all levels of leadership. Strikes me, that's very alarming. It's something that maybe we as a commission could be able to look into. I remember when some concerned citizens in Charlottesville had brought to us their concerns about disproportionate contact in CPS on the basis of race. And we brought CPS in to give a presentation and to show us their data, show us what concerned citizens were talking about. And maybe we can do something with that with the city HR. I know a lot of this information likely is confidential, but maybe in the aggregate, it's something we could look into. I just want to propose that that's something that we consider for a future meeting, is inviting HR to come in and kind of talk us through this.
Maybe when we have an HR director, that position's been empty for quite a while. Yeah. Which I think is related to everything we're talking about, probably, right? Thank you. I'm making notes as you guys talk so that I can get all this to Mary for action. And then Jeanette.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree. Very well said, both, everyone that's spoken, Ernest, Jessica, Wolfgang, thank you so much for your comments. I think including in the letter some recommendations, and I don't know if we can work closely with you, Ashley, but finding out, what you want put in your budget, if it's bystander training, if it's racial equity, for across the city, and really as a commission going to bat for that to be included in the budget. This is an opportunity for us to support your vision, Ashley, for how to make some of these systemic changes. So I'd love to partner with you if that's appropriate, or support your vision in general. I've really appreciated, Mary and Catherine, the times that you've come to council and spoke on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. I would really like to, I think we could do a blast, like we could all show up one time, in strong support, and have more than just one or two people giving comments. Those of us that are able to could participate. And then I would share, so in the comments, I just want to add that Ashley, I put in the comments the summary conclusion for the 2019 equity report, and then there were a few recommendations, one of which was the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So there has been steps taken, which is great. There are other more specific ones. And then Ashley mentioned that per the December 2nd, 2020 council meeting, the council had asked for Dr. Richardson to consult with the new HR director and bring a proposal before council on the equity report. So that has been stalled given staffing changes, I'm sure. So I would really support whatever we can do to support Ashley doing that. I apologize, I just realized I was being informal with my addressing you. So I apologize for that, but I think that's all I want. Oh, and I really like the idea of a listening session in the community. I think that it's been really hard in this formal way that we meet to feel like we're having any exchange. And if we were to do something like that soon, so that it could inform the budget conversation and the budget ask, I would really be excited about that. Thank you.
Yes, Todd, just 1 second. Jeanette, I think one thing we don't want to lose sight of, we want to write this letter, we want to think about that, but I think staying on top of the budget issue is going to be critical. Todd, you were going to say something?
And maybe we can invite Ashley to comment on that too after you give your comment, Todd, like if there's a way that we can support you in that.
Thanks for this. This is a really important discussion, and I'm hearing what you'd like to have some sort of public engagement, perhaps event, either online, until we get some social media accounts. I know we're still in the process of getting everybody set up on their city email address. So working through that as well, I think may lead to being able to get everybody attached to a city connected social media account. But I think that's still possible. It's still on the table. I can reach out to communications about what town hall platforms there are. I've not done one before, but I'm sure we can navigate that and figure it out if you all are interested. If we think about, and I'm just thinking logistically, you have four committees, 4 active committees right now. If you would like to hold a town hall, that would probably be a publicly noticed meeting as well. So I'm just trying to think about, do you want to focus on that instead of the 4 committees, or would you like to just for discussion for you to think about, and then let me know so we can plan that out with communications?
I would think we need to plan. So I think we need to stick with our 4 committees for the next month, and then, right? I mean, suddenly the community engagement committees become the hot committee to go to, because this also seems like community engagement. And I'm wondering if what that means is more of us need to show up to that meeting, if it needs to be scheduled as a longer meeting. Legal representation, I don't think there's much to work on in the next month. We could, take that off the table. Even the housing subcommittee could skip a month. And then we could just have the accessibility committee. If Wolfgang, you feel like there needs to be a meeting next month?
It's just me on the committee, so it would just be talking
Right.
to myself. Any community members are welcome to share their opinions, but so far no one has attended, so it would
Right.
just be me.
So what if our plan was for this next month that our only committee meeting is a community engagement meeting?
Yep, that's
How do we
certainly,
feel about that?
certainly possible. Just let me know what date too.
Okay, and then, one thing that we could consider is a town hall that's a listening session, but a town hall that also includes some bystander training, like we could run that. I don't know what people think about that. I think we should put it on the agenda to talk about, maybe. Whether we have the capacity to do that. Lindell?
I think these are all really good ideas, and I think that one thing that that we might want to also consider doing if we do a town hall is I think that there are some. It's not really clear to everyone what it is, the work that we can do and cannot do, and what our power is and what our power isn't. And I think that the community needs to know what we can do and what we can't do, not as an excuse for what we aren't doing, but so that there's some transparency about where power actually lies. Because we can't change things until people know where the power is sitting and hiding. So anyway, that's just my, I think as part of a town hall, we should also talk about where the power lies.
Good point.
And I just want to say, I will be a part of this, but, and all of, I facilitated a lot of conversations like this per work over the years that I've done. And it always is good to set ground rules when I'm talking about code of conduct. When you're conducting bigger meetings like this, there's ground rules. So I'm happy to, I definitely want that to be a part of the conversation. And oftentimes you have to model it to show others what that means. And so having someone there that maybe can help with that. But I just want to put that out there. There are established code of conducts and how we're agreeing to treat each other. And especially with very heated conversations like this, when you're talking about race, like they've been created because of that and the nature of that. And then how we treat ourselves, how we treat others is really important. I just want to keep stressing that because I think it needs to be modeled.
And I do actually very much want to start stealing from the Planning Commission. And there, I will have the chair of the Planning Commission send me that language, and I can email that out to folks, and you can see how they handle that at the beginning of their meetings. Okay, does everyone feel like we have reached a point? Our plan is a letter. Mary will likely draft that, and we've talked through the issues of Black leadership that are probably also connected to more systemic issues within the entire hierarchy of the city, as evidenced by the 2019 report, which we will dig into a little bit more. That we will go to have only a community engagement ad hoc committee meeting in the next month. And in that committee meeting, we will talk about a town hall, potentially with some kind of bystander intervention training. And there was something else we were putting in that meeting, which I'm forgetting. And
I have guidelines for working together, a town hall, commemorative months, and the plain language version of the.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Does that feel like I have covered what we've talked about? Did I miss anything? It's hard to be chair. Mary does a good job. There's so many, especially when you're on Zoom. There's a lot of tabs, and I wasn't really set up for this. Yes, Lindell.
You're doing great, Catherine. Thank you. I just want to make sure of one thing, and just to clarify this. So in this letter that Mary's going to draft, and I want to make sure I understood what Jessica was saying as well, in addition to the bystander training, that we're specifically asking council to monitor and to make sure that our mayor is not attacked in the ways that are happening without some intervention on their part. Is that what we were specifically asking as well?
Okay, yes, I think we can put that in the letter. That conversation came up later and I had not envisioned that specifically in the letter, but I think that's a fair point. And certainly evidence for how Black leadership has been disrespected. So it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, but you will
But
also
Jessica,
get
you
a
didn't
chance.
agree? Jessica, you didn't agree? Is that what you?
Oh, no, I actually, sorry, can you repeat? Because I didn't catch everything you said.
So what I was trying to amplify what you were saying, if I understood it correctly, is that part of what we want from in our letter is that we want city council to not disrespect and not allow the mayor to be disrespected specifically.
Yes,
Is
I
that
think
correct? Okay.
yes. I think that specifically needs to be called out. It's unacceptable.
Yep.
Like it allows others. It just if it happens amongst the commission, the council, then it gives the right for the public to engage with her the same way. And I know I didn't say this earlier, but I just really respect the mayor and I'm grateful for what she's done. I'm really saddened that she's leaving. I also want to add that it's important. It's important to say that I don't have words for it right now. Let me gather myself. It's important to get answers. Like every time I listen to, because I don't have the bandwidth, they're up way too late. When I am able to hear recordings of the council, the mayor is so thoughtful and she asks questions that she does not get answers to. And part of that, I think, is, I don't know the reason why that is, but it's infuriating. And it's like she's being blocked out. And I don't know how to, again, I don't have the answers of why, but she's often being very thoughtful and like, I want the answer to this. And someone's like, it's like, I want the answer to this. And she's not getting it. And that's really frustrating. So again, I don't want to make it about me, but it's frustrating to see as a person of color, like what power do I have when the mayor is being so disrespected in the precedents that it sets, again, regardless of how we stand. So I think, I don't know how to address it. Lindell, you're always great at translating what I'm trying to say, but like being able to address like that practice, not only she's the tone in which she's talked to, the way she's shut down, but also that she's not getting answers to very valid questions that she's asking, and not just from her, from the whole council, and then from the public and those that are coming when they're presenting. She's not getting answers to very valid questions.
And I will say this, that, on the other side of that, when the mayor hears certain attacks happen to other counselors, and especially if there's profanity and things being used, she will say, we don't do that. That's not something that we're going to listen to. Please be respectful and that type of thing to the other counselors. When people are coming at other counselors and cussing and things, she will say that's not. So, it is disheartening and frustrating to see that that's not given back to her. So I understand your frustration, Jessica, and yes, being up until 1 o'clock in the morning, listening to the city council meetings and things. Yes, it's tough. So that's, again, why I brought up the question about, what can we do as far as commissioners and being aware of these things that are going on. So.
And I think, again, it's out of our purview, but back to the work that we're doing on our community engagement with plain language. Like, again, it's not accessible. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like, that's a lot of time to read through and go through. If there's more ways for things to be condensed down, like what is it? TL semicolon DR.
Yeah.
DR, like helping to do, like I see it in my head, but being able to do stuff like that, like again, that's like we are volunteers, we only have so many, but if that's something, I don't know if Ashley can propose or someone we can propose to city council also to put plain language documents in. And summaries, like quick executive summary reports of like, this is what they discuss, because it's so important. But I am often overwhelmed with I don't know how they do it. Like I just don't know how they do it, but keeping it all together, like I need executive summary reports.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica and Ernest. I want to acknowledge the emotional labor and the toll that these meetings are clearly taking, and appreciate your willingness to speak up in the meetings and make sure that we stay on track. No, that's okay to say, but I felt it in the meeting, and I'm grateful to you both for sticking through this. Okay, are we, does everyone feel like we have finished our work session on this issue and that we can move forward to matters by the public? I think we have next. Do we have any hands? Looks like we have 2 hands raised.
We have 3 hands raised. I saw Tanisha's hand first, Angela's hand second, and Janice's hand third.
And if I could just interrupt you, I am going to ask that people stick to 3 minutes for these comments.
Okay, I'll go ahead and give Tanisha the floor.
Okay, first and foremost, thank you, Mr. Ernest Chambers, for your comments. Very on point and very true. Second off, I really don't care about people getting into their personal feelings. That's why this is a public meeting held by the city. We have First Amendment rights. So ask about me. I have sued the city before for being cut off from not being able to speak. That's why we have First Amendment rights. Second off, I don't think that you all even know the full purpose of this commission. The full purpose of this commission is to act as a strong advocate for justice and equal opportunity by providing citywide leadership and guidance in the area of civil and human rights. Act as an advisory body to city council in matters pertaining to human and civil rights, which means you have not been doing that, because we've watched city council wrongfully do Black leadership, not just the mayor, the city manager, previous city manager, Dr. Richardson, the city manager before him, Maurice Jones, and Chief Thomas. And now we just watched them drag Rochelle Brackley. You keep saying, wait for an HR director. We don't need to wait for an HR director. Ashley Marshall is on this call right now. Ashley should address why her, Sam Sanders, and Chip Boyles hired Highland Poe to write a public statement on behalf of this city, trying to shield and cover up why she was wrongfully terminated. That's what Ashley should address. We don't need an HR director to address that. We don't need an HR director to address why those 3 wrongfully terminated the chief because people did not get their way. What that city manager office did, Ashley, Sam, and Chip, what they did was wrong. What they did was wrong. What council did to Dr. Richardson was absolutely wrong. Jessica, you brought up a good point about the mayor being left out. She is left out. She's very often left out. She's not the only one. They left Letitia Shelton out too, right after Teron Richardson walked up out of here. This is very common. It's the same game over and over and over again. Your job as the HRC is to address it with council and then help represent the individuals that are being done wrong. And if you all need some help, I'm very open. All of my information is public. You can Google me, you can Facebook me, you can send me an email. I'm very reachable if you need some help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. And you should have the floor.
Yes, hi, thank you. So I wanted to touch on what Jessica was saying in regards to the mayor and Black leadership. Uh, the, they're being let go at an alarming rate. Like this should trigger some type of response from the Human Rights Department or Human Rights Commission. Like there has to be something done. Like, you know, we can't sit quiet. And as far as the firing of Chief Brackney, as you know, I'm very anti-police and I say that very publicly, but we cannot dismiss what took place in the system, right? We can't dismiss that. And it's happening across the board. So I am just really urging y'all to rise up or do something, because this is not okay. Like this is not okay. We had a city manager that was colluding with the PAB, setting up private conversations that they wouldn't divulge for the community. And that's a person that is supposed to be representing the community and making vital decisions for the community and quote unquote community safety, right? So we really need to think about where our priorities are. And as a commission, you should also be thinking about where your priorities are as far as it goes for human rights of Black people in our community, Black, Brown, and Indigenous, but on this topic specifically, Black folk. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say, because I think Tanisha did sum it up pretty well. And it's just outrageous. It is really outrageous. And we're watching white supremacy and patriarchy work in real time here. And the shutting down of the mayor every time she speaks, that is blatant disrespect. And then you have the rest of the council sitting there quietly while she gets verbally assaulted, you know, outrightly verbally assaulted. And the dismissal of her concerns as a Black woman who is part of this community as well. So I would really urge y'all to take some type of stance here. You know, it's just really terrible. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and let me go ahead and give Janice the floor.
Hi, thanks again. I just wanted to say a couple of things about Chief Brackney that I'm not sure everybody is aware of. You know, I've been a criminal defense attorney for 35 years almost, and it is not comfortable for me to even support a police chief. But I've been around Charlottesville for long before I was a lawyer. And I've lived through Deke Bowen, who, you know, tear gassed West Haven. I've lived through Longo, who did his DNA dragnet. All of them. And we have never had a police chief that was interested in and actually pushed the needle forward, way forward on reforming policing. And she is the first one. She was brought here for this job. And she has been disrespected since the day she walked through the doors. And quite frankly, even before she walked through the doors, I've seen her work firsthand in the Imagining a Just Seville group. She's not just a participant. She's not just a person at the table. She was a leader in that group. She's a leader in the Marcus Alert group, and we have suffered a tremendous loss here. And I do not believe for 1 second that this would have happened if she were a white man. And so that is within the purview of the Human Rights Commission and the office. And I really hope that you all will voice your concerns, because I am gutted by this, because we have gone back decades now. Her 3 years of work, which was incremental, it had to be incremental. She had to to, gain alliances within that police department, but it's all gone now. And I'm really afraid for our community that everything will be rolled back. Thanks for your help. Thanks for all of your efforts. I really appreciate you all.
Thank you. And now we have commission response, and I'll start us off by saying I appreciate the comments. Thank you all for speaking. We do have a plan to address the issues brought up, and I hope that the statement that we put out about that will address the public's concerns. What other commissioners would like to speak?
I just want to say thank you all for all that gave feedback. I think our last speaker, Janice, thank you for what you said about the mayor and Chief Brackney specifically. The mayor sent out last week like a compilation video, which I found helpful because again, I can't watch 2 hours of all of it. She compiled where she's asking this questions, and the question about Chief Brackney's like why they brought her in. She kept asking Chip, well, then why is really she pressed the issue. And so it's like a perfect example where you can't give answers to why the person's been terminated or it's, oh, they're not wrongfully terminated, but whatever the reasons Chip has said. So it's a great example of this mistreatment of the mayor. And again, to Ernest's point, I just wanted to say earlier about about how she speaks up for others, but people don't speak up for her. So thank you for all of the comments. And just to clarify, Ashley didn't hire anyone or terminate the chief.
That was going to be my question. I was wondering if I could direct it directly to Dr. Marshall and say, were you involved in the decision to fire Police Chief Brackney?
I'm not sure this is proper, but no, I was not.
Okay, I didn't think so. Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners or responses from commissioners? No. So I guess we move into updates, and this is where I had hoped that maybe Sue would be present in the meeting. But I do want to acknowledge that Sue was one of the founding members of the Human Rights Commission, that she has served on many boards and commissions over her time in Charlottesville. This is just one of them, but she's put a huge amount of her time, years of effort into the commission, and that she will be deeply missed. And I am sorry she's not here for us to say that directly to her. Do we have any other updates from commissioners? We don't have Sue to give us an update on the Virginia Human Rights Commission, so we'll have to figure that out.
I just want to say, I know Sue's not here. Hopefully it's recording somehow. It'll get to her. I'll just reach out to her. But I'm thankful. I'm new to the council, and she's welcomed me with open arms. And I love how she keeps us accountable, and she knows those Robert's Rules of Orders, and she keeps us on task. She's so honest, and I really have appreciated working with her and all that she's done for our Human Rights Commission. So Sue, I know you're not here, but I really appreciate you.
Yeah, I will concur. Same. Thank you, Sue, for all your hard work. Appreciate you.
All right. I think this is probably out of order, but we need to establish a time for the community engagement meeting. Do we need to do that now, or should we do that by email later?
I think we always
What's
do a
best
little
for you, Todd?
better when we do it during the meeting. I think we get it, we're a little more effective at planning that way, if that's okay with everyone.
Okay, so the 4th of November, is that what we're looking at? That's Diwali. I don't know if that.
And I'll say, I was communicating about that date for another evening engagement, and my wife said, that's a conflict for her, I think, so I may not be able to be present for that. So we have the 11th, and then the 25th, the 18th being our regular meeting day.
I believe the 25th.
Let's do it before our next meeting. Oh, yeah.
That leaves Veterans Day.
So so the 11th?
That was fine.
Is the city open on Veterans Day?
That's an incredible question. I always forget when the holidays are and sometimes show up to the
Pretty
office.
sure they are.
I think so. That's the 11th. I'll look at the calendar. Hold on.
I know, but my concern is that the further we put this off, the further we won't lose ground on this. So I know that the 4th is tough, and if we can't meet on 11th, could we try to meet on the 11th? Although it's Veterans Day.
I'd
and
like
the
to,
offices
Jessica,
may be
what works
closed.
best for you? Evening or daytime?
Daytime is more ideal. I can make evening work, but daytime is more ideal.
I prefer daytime too, but this is your committee, so I want it to work for you. Does that 1 o'clock time?
Yeah.
Does that work?
What day is that? What day?
Just to clarify, Veterans
November
Day
11th?
is the city is closed that day, so I don't know if we have communications staff to support us. I can push it home to make sure that the 4th works, especially if it's during the day. I don't think it's a problem. I was asking about was trying to convene a weeknight meeting on that date, and I think that was the conflict. I think my wife might be working that night, but
Okay,
if
so
during the
one
day,
on the 4th of November?
At 1? That would work for me.
I
So I can-
apologize. I'm not available that day, but I would be supportive of you all meeting. I'll be traveling.
Okay.
Would we be talking about an hour? What time length are we talking
And
about?
with that,
Catherine, did you hear? Lindell?
I think we were talking about an hour because we don't have any other meetings.
An hour would work for me. Thanks.
And just to clarify, we're not talking about this being the town hall. This is a meeting in which you want to plan the town hall. Okay, just make sure what I'm asking of communications. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a community engagement ad hoc committee meeting at which many things will be discussed.
And Todd, Jeanette put in the items in the chat. I don't know if I get saved out to you and you see it, but Jeanette did put it in the chat.
Thanks. Yeah, I did just request from Remy if he can email that to me. I don't think I can do that myself. So thank you.
Okay, I can email it to you.
Oh, I mean the chat. He'll email me the chat.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thanks.
And with that, I don't think we need a motion, do we? I can just declare us adjourned. I think we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Thanks to the members of the public who spoke. And I look forward to working with you at our next meeting.
Thanks for your leadership, Catherine. Bye,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Guys.